So friends, a very good evening to everyone present over here. Myself, Shamita Nandi. I'm a working HR professional, currently with Tractus India as the CHRO, and as the co-chairperson of the BCCI People Management Committee of Bengal Chamber of Commerce. I'm privileged to have all of you over here for our curtain raiser program, The Mindful Leader. I extend a warm welcome to our guest, our speakers for the event, and our sponsors. You all are, you are all established in your fields. You have gone to many programs. So everybody must be thinking that, what's new in this program, because we all look forward to it. So holistic well-being, wisdom, inner peace, mindfulness, soulfulness, while we all acknowledge, but we rarely speak about it and its effectiveness, as a working professional, as a leader. So that's an area that we would want to divulge a little bit more in today's program. Without further ado, I call upon Mr. Arnab Chakraborty. He is the chairperson of the People Management National Committee of BCCI and also has a day job as the Vice President Human Resource of CESC Limited for a welcome address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to welcome this August gathering. As the chairman of the People Management Committee, Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, this is our first program. After taking charge of the committee, our aim was to create value-added programs, and we thought this could be the best possible way with Professor Manish Singhal from XLRI and my bumchum from OTM Madras, Major Gaurav Arya, and combined into a wonderful thought process today, very relevant in the HR scenario, is mindfulness. This is an enabler which we are trying to bring in and see how it performs in itself as an enabler for leaders to thrive. The conversation today or our future workshop, which is listed in the month of March 2025, this is the curtain raiser for that, is not about how to create leaders or any attributes. This is nothing to do with creating leaders. We are not saying if you go through this program, you will create leaders. It is more to do with how a leader or an aspiring leader survives in the position that leader is, thrives, and performs in its peak by using the mindfulness as a subject through which they can perform continuously in a sustainable form. The conversation today is between two of my favorite personalities, one a spiritual thinker into a management guru, Professor Manish Singhal, and my buddy, my batchmate at Officers Training Academy, Chennai, Major Gaurav Arya. One would attempt to show you how spiritual vitality brings in huge stability while being the leader, and the other would bring how leaders take decision and put them into action. I'm sure you will enjoy the conversation and take back a thought or two to your workplace. While we are, it just came to my mind that while we are passing out of the Officers Training Academy, so if you refer to what you read in probably chapter 1 or 2 of OB, the rites of passages, when you pass out from one phase of your life to the other, a gentleman cadet moves to becoming an officer, you cross 3 steps. And I'll read out what the 3 steps are. First, the safety and honor and welfare of your country comes first, always and every time. This is the first step as you step out to become an officer. The second, the honor, welfare and comfort of the men you command next. And the third, your own ease, comfort and safety comes last, always and every time. So if you convert it typically into your hierarchy of organization, the men you command, under you, meaning your department, and you. In the entire process, you are the last. So what I am trying to say, though in the armed forces we are ingrained and aligned to this, how much is the corporate culture aligned to this? Thereafter, doing this, does it bring in a little bit of happiness? And third, I'm just leaving a thought behind. Are we all mindful about this? While we lead our teams, while we execute, give performance bonus, give them a help or two or a pact, are we mindful about this? And therefore, this is an offering between two people discussing how parts of spirituality, parts of vitality, and parts of mindful thinking develops a beautiful leader. A leader who not only performs and pushes you to perform, but is a person who holds your hand to perform. So please enjoy the conversation and enjoy how these two people discuss mindfulness as a subject. And thank you and namaskar for coming once again.
That was an interesting sneak peek on the sneak peek that we are going to have. We are very delighted. Today we have with us Mr. Deepak Barua, CEO of Woodlands Hospital. And the program that we are doing and the content is so much related to an overall well-being, health and vitality and everything. So I would request, so if you could please come up and share your thoughts on the subject with everyone present over here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just here a student, actually. I was not having much of idea about the mindfulness. I was just having a chat, 1 minute chat I had with this Professor Manish, and I was trying to understand what is the subject. So during this discussion, I could understand the importance of this subject. It's extremely important in today's VUCA situation. We are absolutely under this volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity situation. The different kind of, under different stress, we are all working, the leaders, those who are taking decision. This mindfulness, there are many of the subjects we study, this is your strategic management, leadership management, creating the leaders and all. But this mindfulness, a leader actually must have a kind of, whenever they are taking any decision, how they are taking decision. This decision, are they taking decision in a positive way for the organization? It is actually these mindful leaders that's extremely important, and I'm quite happy to see that this kind of a subject discussing in today's today evening, it's extremely kind of here. And so I appreciate, I would look forward to understand more about the subject, but it's very, very important in today's situation because I'm in a healthcare sector. So I see that many people, many corporate leaders, they come for health checkup just to understand their physical health. But there is no health checkup actually there for this, your mindfulness. Whether we, our mind, we are the way we are maintaining our mind, is it in the right shape? That I think Professor Manish is going to let us understand. Thank you so much for inviting me and look forward for a fantastic discussion. Thank you.
So as we start the program, like every program, we should start with the lamp lighting. So I would request our eminent speakers for the day, Major Gaurav Arya and Professor Manish Singhal, to please come up. Along with it, Mr. Barua, we would want you to also be there on the stage, along with Mr. Somesh Dasgupta and also the Director General of Bengal Chambers. Sirs, you are requested to please come here.
या
So we'll start with the star attraction of the day. And let me take this opportunity now to introduce to you a truly eclectic personality amongst us today. He has qualifications which is ranging from mechanical engineering to finance to general management, which is just to name a few. Similarly, his interest lies in anthropology and archaeology, which is again just to name a few. He's a keen practitioner in yoga and sadhana, been part of the corporate world, and then 6 years of post MBA. He has been full time in the spirituality oriented service mission of Vivekananda Kendra. Teaching, I believe, is his true calling. So I would take this opportunity to please welcome Professor Manish Singhal, Professor of Organizational Behavior, XLRI. Sir, this is all yours to introduce the topic before we start the conversation.
I'm not used to standing in one place. Okay, but it seems I'll have to be frozen here for a while. So this is a sneak preview of something which is called Mindful Leadership, and that is a program that we are going to offer. But then before we get there, I think I have to warm up everyone to it. Typically do that in every class that I start with, and that is called Clearing the Space. And I want you to engage in a particular activity right now. So how do we do this? So you turn to your partner. So you turn to your partner, the person who's with you. So you'll just do that. Okay, so just turn around, face your partner. So what is it that you do there? What is it that you do? And stag entries aren't allowed. You need to be in pairs. Only 2 minutes ke liye, not much more than that. So what is it that we do? So what we do here is, so we try to identify that while this particular session is in the foreground, is there anything from the background that can claim your attention? Okay, I'll illustrate. Point number 1, what is it which is in the background? From there, you try to identify as to what is the emotion associated with that issue in the background. Once you have identified that, you will give a commitment to your partner. That's how it is right now. Can I get back here? To illustrate. So what's in the background for me right now is that tomorrow I've got a train at 6 o'clock and I do not know how long the night will last. Okay, so the emotion currently is some amount of unsettledness. Will I have my full night of sleep? But if I have an anxiety about it and I continue to be beset with that anxiety, will it contribute positively to this session? What should I do? That's how it is right now. Can I get back here? Is this okay? Point number 1. Now what else is in the background? So there's a particular client of mine who asked me something about his daughter who's appearing for Xavier admission test, etc., which is coming. And he was asking me as to how could I get my daughter to prepare better for the decision making session. Okay, that is what he asked me. So I asked another candidate of that program. So that particular girl, she sent me a particular video, a 1.5 hour video on that, and I've sent that across to him. Now, associated emotion once again is also some amount of apprehension as to whether that much material will be enough for that girl. Okay, but once again, that apprehension, will it contribute positively if I stay apprehensive? What should I do? That's how it is there. Can I get back here? Is this okay? So together what we are going to do is, each one of us is going to clear at most 3 things each. At most 3 things each. So that is what I'm asking you to do. Could you do that, please? Turn to your partner. This is a workshop. Okay? Pair up. Pair up. Anything which can take your attention away from here is a valid background. Okay, shall we come back? This is my prop in all my classes. Okay, whenever I want to get your attention back. So now, why should we clear the space? Any ideas? Why should we clear the space? And otherwise what will happen? If we are not? So that particular attention won't be there, because if we don't do this, look at this. Typical state of the human mind, that your mind is kind of diverged into and bifurcated into a whole lot of things, not allowing you to focus. So the idea is, why should we do this? So this we can create focus and concentration. Now, if we look back even in the last 2 or 3 minutes, okay, what is the one reason we can't focus? One illustration we have in the center table already. What is the one reason we can't focus? Mobiles. Huh? She's helping me right now. Okay, she's helping me right now by giving us an illustration. So, okay, so what is the one reason? So I can thank her for being my accomplice here. So look at this part here. How many of you have felt like saying this to your spouse, partner, best friend, child? Oh, very common, very common. Okay, how many of us are perpetrators? How many of us are victims? Or both? Common, life condition for everyone in the world that we are living in. And therefore, there's this one video that I show all the time, which is called the Guiding Hands. So there's a service that has become available, which is about introducing guiding hands. And some of my students are here who have probably seen it before. So generally, if we look at this, so generally this is the condition. And we already have a few people who are on it while the session is on. Look around. So this is from an HBR article. This is from an HBR article. And so now that I have your attention, the idea is that we should be choosing single tasking and not really multitasking. And once again, the video that I have, I'll not be able to play, but the illustration is there. Many of us would have probably done it in class 6, 7, whenever physics was taught, and there was a convex lens that was given to you. Okay, what did we use it for? A paper in one hand, convex lens here, and then focusing it here. So the idea is that I could start that in the morning, continue it till the evening. But if I continue to move the lens again and again, I'll not be able to accomplish much. The argument being that I should be able to focus my attention. Okay? And once again, this will not play. Now, the single biggest misconception that people have, because I have all of 15 minutes to do this in, the single biggest misconception that you have is that people say whether multiple responsibilities, will I be able to justify those when I do not multitask? Is this ideology? So what would be the difference between the two? Multitasking and multiple responsibilities? Someone who has not had this session before? The distinction between the two? One thing at a time is single tasking. Multitasking would be multiple things at the same time. Okay. Now what will multiple responsibilities lead you to? Why? The question is, what is different? Beautiful. Perfect. 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 Okay, so the idea here is multiple responsibilities need to be justified over a period of time. Multitasking is what you're doing at a given point of time. So what lesson do we take away from this? So what is it that I should be doing? I should probably look at prioritizing and scheduling. Prioritizing and scheduling, another video which I can't use. So the idea is that I should be able to disconnect to connect. Now, this is one book that I refer to all the time, which is 1 Second Ahead. Enhance your performance at work with mindfulness. And an article basis this book which was written was called Mindful Leadership, Achieving Results by Managing the Mind. So the kind of explanation that I was giving some 5 minutes ago is that even if you look at this particular image that is getting projected, or let us say if I go to a movie, and over there I am able to watch the movie only when this sequence is above 24 FPS, 24 frames per minute. But if the screen on which it is getting projected, if that starts shaking, will I be able to watch the movie? No. Okay, next illustration is that if we are looking at a particular vehicle which is moving on the road, what is the assumption of the vehicle moving forward? That the road will remain steady. Am I making sense? Otherwise, if you've got gravel, if you've got sand on the road, then probably the vehicle is going to skid. Likewise, the argument is that if I'm a leader, unless and until the internal part is steady and still, I'll not be able to move outside much. So mindful leadership is the idea. Okay. In this particular article, they give a very beautiful full form for paid. Are all of us paid by our organizations? Anyone working pro bono in one's organization? Everyone is getting paid. Okay. So there are smiles. So what are the full form? What is the full form? So it says P stands for pressure, the reason why you're getting paid. A, you are expected to be always on. Even if you go out on a leave, you get an LTA sign, the boss is going to ask you, mobile to leke ja rahe ho na? Okay, is the laptop going to be there with you, etc., etc. Information overloaded and distracted. Now, because this is happening, and we have already seen earlier as to what it leads to, so by and large, people become ineffective people managers and the results suffer. So what is the argument then? That at one point of time, work life used to look like this. You needed to be there to do that. Whereas today, almost everyone is carrying a supercomputer in one's pocket. When did you first buy a computer? The senior most gentleman here. How many years ago? What was the capacity of the device that you purchased? I remember 1995 when I purchased the first computer, the PC, digital ka kuch hota tha. It had 630 MB of hard disk. Forget about the RAM. 630 MB. What is the RAM in your mobile phone right now? 8, 12, 16, 24 also. Okay, so that part here. And therefore, anywhere that you go, your work follows. Remember that Hajj ka advertisement tha? Okay, wherever you go, our network follows. So like this. And therefore, what is it that we need to do? So we need to cultivate attention management as a foundational skill. And we need to switch off the autopilot that goes on all the time inside. First idea to remember from there, thoughts are not facts. Give me an illustration. A particular thought that you had long harbored, it turned out that it was not really factual. Any example? We are a small group, we should be able to hear each other. Anyone? A particular thought that you harbored, but it eventually turned out that it was not really true. Anyone? Any one thought? Did a particular thought get disproved? Aaj subah se sochiye, something in the morning. You probably thought you will be able to reach in time. You will be able to find parking. Okay, I am talking to Leena Di there. Okay, or probably whether I'll be able to get there in time or not, or I'll be in time or etc. So thoughts are not facts. So the idea is, why not give it a try? Okay, so that's something that we'll do in that program also. So what is it that I'm asking you to do? Everyone remembers ABCD? You would have talked to your kids as well. So now what we are going to do here, and I'll probably take this up and then do this. Okay, I'll have to hold it close. And then, okay. So this is a practice of mindfulness and mindfulness of breathing. So what is it that you do? So you start looking at first the anatomy. What is it that we do? Could we start it step by step? 2 feet upon the floor, please. Difficult? 2 feet upon the floor, both the feet upon the floor. Okay, next. If you could move forward slightly, move forward slightly, done, slightly forward, so that the back is not resting up against the backrest and you are not leaning forward either. Okay, done. Next, shoulders, if you could just relax them somewhat. Neck, if it could be straight instead of pointing down, could you just keep it straight? Okay, next, you can do it. I will not be able to do this. Let me see if I can hold it here. Wonderful. So now I am hands free. Okay, could you place one hand on the chest and the other upon the belly? And now, observing the other anatomical instructions that I gave you, could you try focusing upon the movement of the body with your eyes kept closed? Could you focus upon the gentle movement of the body with each inhalation and exhalation? You likely realize that when you inhale, the body expands. When you exhale, the body collapses. What you are doing is paying attention. Let us try to follow this for a while. maybe for 5 counts, with each inhalation and exhalation constituting one round. Any time that your mind goes astray, gently bring it back. Now keeping the eyes closed, release the arms. The eyes remain closed. The attention is directed within. Can you still feel the movement? Are you still breathing in a similar fashion? Now release all the efforts and observe the changes, if any, in the body and mind. Gently open the eyes. Okay. How did that feel? Any different, or was it more of the same? Same? Were we breathing in a similar fashion before and after? Are you more aware of the chest and the belly when it is moving along with that? And therefore that is what you're looking at. So what you're doing is, and this is something for those of us who want to take something away from here, we could probably do this regularly. First, look at the anatomy. Second is look at the breathing part. Then you start counting, and you'll soon realize that as you're counting it, you get distracted. So whenever it is that you get distracted, can you come back to the breath? A, B, C, D, and then you continue that. So now what is the idea of mindfulness? So mindfulness is not really going into the Himalayas or moving closer to the sea, etc., etc. You could be paying attention. For example, when I asked you to pay attention to your anatomy, did anyone realize that you probably were not sitting balanced on the two sides? Did anyone realize that, or was it balanced all along and it remained that way after later also? Okay, so that is the idea of paying attention. So that which you are not aware of, do I start paying attention to that? And you are doing it on purpose, number one. Second is that I am doing it in the present moment. As we did at the start, I may be feeling anxious about tomorrow, apprehensive about whatever. So can I bring my attention back to the present moment? And the last one is, can I do it non-judgmentally? I am not dividing into black and white, but can I become aware of it as it is? So that part here. So mindfulness is then seen as a superpower, and that is what we are looking at. So this particular program, the subtitle is Empowering Leaders for Personal Fulfillment and Organizational Success. So the invitation is for the CEOs, CHROs, senior corporate leaders who are committed not only to their own growth, but also to their teams and the organization's growth. The kind of things that we are going to cover: number one, deep dive into the impact of what we just started on here into leadership and individual well-being. So that is just the start, number one. You move further from there to look at interpersonal relationships. Once I'm stable within, once I'm more well-connected here, I'll probably be able to connect better with the people around me, number two. From there, we are starting looking at corporate culture, how that could be more values driven. And finally, the last one is as to how is it that I can create a better leadership impact. And it is on that note that probably Major Arya, who has had significant experience of that, not only in the military, in the corporate sector, will be able to take that further from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. So in a very short time, I think you gave us a very good, experience on mindfulness. And I'll not stand in between our next guest, who needs no introduction, an Indian Army veteran, writer, public speaker, with 29 plus years of experience, including Army, top multinational companies, media, consulting, and public speaking. Major Gaurav Arya, writer and public speaker, founder of Chanakya Forum. Sir, if you could please join in for the conversation.
Okay, so frank admission, I have never done a fireside chat before. And therefore I needed to go through a whole lot of kind of YouTube videos that are available, how to do it, to kind of witness as to how that is conducted, etc. And I thought that maybe that would be a good time, and no one better than Major Arya to start with. So sir, and this is something which is completely unscripted. He does not know what I'm going to ask, and he insisted upon that it has to be impromptu, it has to be spontaneous. So the first question that I want to come to, that in leadership literature there is this growing acknowledgement about the impact of early life experiences into developing one's own view of leadership. And even before you got into the military, given that you had an officer at home as a father, would you remember a particular instance which probably shaped your perspective or your view on leadership, maybe from the earlier part of your life?
Thank you very much, and thank you BCCI and thank you Arnab for inviting me. No, before I joined the army, I was absolutely useless. I mean, even if there was some leadership in front of me, I would have missed it by a mile. And I'm sure there was, because my father was in the police and he was a senior officer, but you see, it's also the realization that you're seeing leadership. And I thought things would continue in the fashion that they were ever since. And in fact, the first shock that I got was when I entered the Officers Training Academy at Madras. It used to be Madras during those days when we trained, and that is more than 30 years ago. So that was the first shock. And I think essentially what the army says about leadership, with your permission, Professor, I'd like to say that. I think it essentially starts off with taking a lot of responsibility for your actions. And it doesn't matter if there is an earthquake or a tsunami or a hurricane. If you're the leader, you're accountable and you deliver, period. That is why you're there. And since you're in the army, the main point and the main focus, two of my postmates are here. There is Arnab, there is Colonel A.P. Sinha there. And the main focus has always been to prepare for war. And it's a very binary sort of an organization. There are no nuances in the army. It's either this way or that way. There is nothing in between. So, mindfulness, it says, Professor. In the army, they told me not to use my mind, and now I am here talking about mindfulness. So let's see how it works out.
So we'll soon see as to how that transitions over there. So one is, so we are looking at that particular mindfulness part, and he mentioned that itself, right? So taking responsibility. So instead of yielding to reactionary tendency from within, as to how is it that I become capable of choosing a particular response, okay? And that is something that I'll come to, that if you look at your early military career, how is it that you started taking that responsibility when maybe your mind rebelled against it, and maybe you wanted to react to that?
So, when the pressure got too much in the academy, because again, this concept of humanity and understanding human emotions, etc., this is very alien to the army ethos, especially in training. So you understand the problems of the people who are your junior and you try to solve those problems, of course, and they're very empathetic as far as that is concerned. But when we actually talk about training that you mentioned, there were a couple of times that I wanted to run away from training because I was an absolute spoiled brat, and I never lifted a finger to have a glass of water in my life. And I was a product pretty much of Lutyens Delhi, if you know what I mean, and spoiled. And then I landed up at OTA Madras, and the first thing they do is cut my hair. Because I had long hair, I had long curly hair. Because I imagined myself to be some sort of a lead singer of a rock band. And I used to wear those earrings, those snap earrings. Because I was too scared to pierce my ears, but I used to wear those clip-ons. And they threw them away, and I lost my hair. And after 15, 20 days, I wanted to leave the academy. And then I got a kick that aligns your perspective, and the guys who kicked me are sitting there in the audience. And bus, both of these guys, and you need, you need friends to survive. And I have been extremely lucky in my life. I have had very wonderful friends, and they've always helped me. And in the end, I ended up looking good, but that's not half the true story. It's like I have a lot of good friends. But when I say lot, I mean 3, 4, 5.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If I can take you back once again.
Ji, bilkul, bilkul, sir, bilkul.
So I was thinking that maybe those snap judgments or all of that was there, but then when we are looking at paying attention on purpose in the present moment and then non-judgmentally, etc., which is the definition of mindfulness, could you look at a particular instance where you probably focus more on mindful decision making instead of coming to a snap judgment?
Professor, to be very honest, I heard this word mindfulness after coming into the corporate sector. I was never aware, and even today, I'll be honest, I don't think I fully understand what it means. And all the decisions, the way we are trained in the army is that you are an officer and you have to take a decision. वो सही या गलत है वो बात की बात है. But within the data available to you and whatever is available to you at that point in time, you take a decision and you move forward. Now, there is always a fallout of the decision that you take. In battle, people die, and that is the reality of battle. And then you live with the consequences of your actions, right? I have not fought a war, and honestly, I don't have any story of bravery to tell you because there is no story of bravery to tell you. Having said that, I have been fortunate enough to walk with men who were exceedingly brave. And it is my fortune that I have walked with heroes. Sometimes it gives you the misconception that you yourself are a hero, which is not true. But you walk with heroes. And it also gives you a false sense of leadership. Because, Professor, what happens is that in the army, when you say something, it's done. And I don't know how it's done. But it's done. The commanding officer of a unit will say that that is the peak in Kargil. It's minus 25 degrees up there, and the enemy is sitting on top, and you know, I'm giving you the orders to attack. You will attack that feature, and possibly 90% of you will die. And then the guys turn around and say that, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good idea, let's do it. So, that is how your mind functions in the army, or the forces, the Navy, the Air Force. That is how it is. I mean, the Navy and the Air Force are known to use their minds more because they're technically more qualified, and we are slightly, you know, the armies, हम लोग कहते हैं दिल दिमाग और घुटना एक लाइन में. So that is pretty much the army. Arnab is from the Armored Corps. These are the guys who are, of course, they think a lot, and they also do a lot. Anand is from the infantry like me. We let the others do our thinking for us. And we are the guys who charge. So we have different responsibilities, but yes. You know, it just happens in the army, and I don't know how it happens or why it happens. It's a 250-year-old organization, and when somebody says, do this, you don't know how they're going to do this. Well, you have an idea, you'll give them a plan, or they'll give you a plan, but in the end it gets done. How it gets done is a mystery.
Fair enough, fair enough. And therefore, if we are looking at high pressure situations, might not necessarily be a war, might not necessarily be a battle, how does a soldier then maintain one's inner composure to be able to deal with that high pressure situation?
Sir, I don't think there is any inner composure.
Okay.
What happens is, I'll tell you, for example, like I was posted on the line of control. And I don't remember a single day people said, were you afraid? I said, no, I was terrified. And I don't remember a single day when I was not afraid on the line of control. And I have said this before, I have a record in the Indian Army which will remain unbroken for the next 100 years. I memorized the Hanuman Chalisa in 48 hours. You know, there is a certain sense of fear when the enemy is firing at you, and you don't know what in God's name is going on. And why? There was this Pakistani guy, there was a post called Cobra. उसकी wife से लड़ाई हुई थी, पता नहीं क्या हुआ था. Some nonsense happened. Every morning this guy would take his weapon and ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. For what? I don't know. I'm not firing at you. What's wrong with you? And then again, so वहाँ पे cricket खेल रहे थे हम लोग, tennis balls से. The CEO calls me. He says, "Acha, Gary, what are you doing?" I said, "So we're playing cricket." Acha, listen. So एक काम करो, stop playing cricket and go inside your bunkers. I said, "Sir, my CEO said, stop your cricket and go inside." I said, "Sir, क्या हो गया?" Because I was batting, मतलब ऐसे थोड़ा ना कि batting और tennis ball के गड्ढे में खेल रहे थे हम लोग. So no. Actually, what has happened is that वो nuclear tests हो गए हैं, and this is 1998. So there are nuclear tests and all, and we expect that the Pakistanis are going to get very upset. And yeah, they got upset. They got majorly upset. And I didn't know what to do. And I'll tell you the first time when I was fired at. You know, people tell you stories about, you know, how you reacted very bravely to a situation because aap pe goli chali na. I was standing like this. I was literally standing like this. Kya ho gaya? Where is this thing? And somebody pulled me down. Because I didn't know where the fire was coming from. And I was afraid. And at that point in time, you're asked not to show fear. Because if you show fear, then everybody else will be afraid. So you tell yourself that there is no fear. And then you move ahead in spite of you wishing that everything would stop and everything would be calm and quiet. तो ये होता है सर, अलग-अलग experiences होते हैं.
उसका शायद बैटरी खत्म हो गया होगा. So while I was preparing for this particular chat, I went through a number of videos that he has already had on YouTube, and there was one in which you were mentioning about your trainer, that you went there and you said you had fever, and then he said, but then you are not dead yet. So, and then after that he had to do what he had to do. So I want to take you back from there and to the corporate situation when you probably need to empathize and alongside you also need to gun for the results. And therefore, how does the two happen together then?
So actually, I don't know. That is the truth. मुझे नहीं पता. I have a different approach, and it's very different to what you mentioned. So my approach is not very evolved. There is nothing, for me, there is nothing called work-life balance. There is nothing called, I work. When I am exhausted, I go to sleep. When I am hungry, I eat. Otherwise, I keep on working. Somebody gave me the example of a shark long time back, that as long as the shark is swimming, it can breathe. When the shark stops swimming, it stops breathing and it dies. So that is one thing. About this whole, I think more than mindfulness, to me, sir, more than mindfulness, the lovely music coming from more than mindfulness, I think what is very important for a leader is to manage entropy. It's very important for a leader to be the lighthouse in the darkness, because there will be times for people, all of you, most of you are from the corporate sector, and they often say, and I say it in most of my talks to drive home this point, it's very important that you know, Von Moltke the elder, there was a guy, there was a Prussian general, very famous. He became a field marshal, and this is pre-First World War, and he says, you know, we have these battle plans in the army, the Navy and the Air Force, we have these very complicated battle plans. You know, the aircraft will come from here, and the infantry will come from here, the tanks will come from here, the ships will come from here. This massive battle plan. He said that no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. however effective your battle plan, it will not survive first contact with the enemy. So similarly in business, since most of you are from the corporate sector, no business plan will survive first contact with the market. So what happens is, when you throw a business plan at the market will throw back your business plan. And then there will be entropy. Then, I won't go to the other one. It's really nice. So what happens is, jokes apart, what happens is that, there will be darkness, and then people will come to you, and at that time you are also afraid. Because even you don't know what's going on. And at that time you're supposed to tell them that, sab theek ho jayega. And you know that you're lying through your nose because sab theek nahi hoga. But you have to give them that confidence, and I think to give confidence is the first responsibility of a leader. Try to make sense out of chaos is the second responsibility of the leader. And the third responsibility, which is the essential difference between a manager and a leader, is you see, when you're appointed a manager by any organization, many of you from the HR domain, you give a letter to the employee that you are appointed as a manager in this organization, and you get this is the salary, and these are your benefits, and this is what you will do. So you are now a manager in this organization, right? But when you are a leader, there is no offer letter that can be given. You become a manager because there are people under you. You become a leader because people under you recognize you as the leader. There is no money in leadership. There is no corner cable. There is no fancy laptop. There is nothing. It is simply the ability to take responsibility, take it on the chin, stand in front of a crowd and say, "Sir, it's my fault. मेरी टीम से बात मत करना, मुझसे बात करो." If you can do that, then you have become a leader. I'm not saying you're a great corporate leader who will make a $1 billion deal or something like that. No. You will be recognized. It's very important for the people in your team to recognize you as a leader. I'll give you an example. See, what happens is that you remember people. There have been so many great kings in India, great emperors, but you don't remember them. We are in West Bengal, and let me tell you, one of the great heroes, not just of West Bengal, but I think the entire India. When we talk about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, did he win the war? Did Shahid-e-Azam Bhagat Singh win the war? They did not win, but they are almost worshipped. Why are they worshipped? If you go to Maharashtra and parts of Goa, you will realize that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is treated like a god. Why is he treated like a god? It is not because he fought against Aurangzeb. When people were defeated, he was that light in darkness. He gave them hope. He gave them back their self-respect. And I think that is a very, very important trait of a leader. When Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj says, "Sawa lakh se ek ladaun." When he says "Sawa lakh se," Chidiya baaz na ladaun. Who's the Chidiya and who's the baaz? The baaz or the eagle is the Mughal Empire, and the Chidiya is the common man who's being persecuted. And he's saying, "I'll make you so strong that you will fight against a sparrow will fight against the eagle," and that is true leadership.
Beautiful, beautifully said. I'll probably help you transition from the battlefield or the lack of a battlefield from the army to the corporate. So what was the single biggest difference that you found when you were transitioning from the military to the corporate?
There is generally a lot of certainty in the army when you talk about the orders that are given are clear. And generally your seniors will support you. And in the army, intent is very important. I have, though I served for only 5.5 years in the army, it's a miracle that I was not court-martialed. Because I have done funny stuff in the army that they should have sacked me long back. Losing a simple cartridge case, when you spend cartridge case, when you fire, if you lose that, it's supposed to be a very big thing. एक आपने बुलेट फायर करी, उसका empty case गिर गया, you have to account for all the empty cases. And throughout the night, the battalion will be searching unless they manage to trace that. I lost an entire RCL gun for 5 hours. That RCL gun, have you seen that movie Border? In which on the jeep they had that long 106mm RCL gun. That was untraceable for 5 hours. We found it. I mean, had we not found it, the commanding officer, everybody would have lost their jobs, and I would have been in jail. But I have done stuff that will surprise everybody. And so many other things, but those people were extremely large-hearted. That is the kind of leadership that I have seen in the army. What I found out in the corporate was, हर एक कंपनी का एक ही मकसद है, profit, है ना? और please forgive me, I have a habit of saying the radical stuff that gets me into trouble. But all this is employee welfare and all. ये जितना भी है, ये रंगोली वंगोली बनाते हैं और फिर गुब्बारे फोड़ते हैं लोग, इसमें होता क्या है कि it is all towards profit. It should result in profit. Because as long as the company is making money, then sir, everything looks good. That Rangoli will go, the Diwali bonus will go, everything will go when the company stops making money. वो जरूरी है. Like sir, it's true. I think the main job of any organization is to make money. If you're not making money, then you're running an NGO. Today even NGOs make more money.
So true, so true. But then if the purposes are so different, one for the army which probably has a larger purpose, and then in the corporate where the purpose is only making money, then how do you make people align with the greater good in a corporate?
There is no greater good, sir. In corporate, there is no greater good. This is a scam being perpetrated. The only purpose of any organization is to make money, but how do you make it respectable? How do you make it respectable? So you have all these themes and schemes and fir aisa kar lo, fir waisa kar lo. In the army, if you ask anybody to go on a mission, there is no money for that mission. So why does a soldier sacrifice his life for 40,000 rupees? There is that sense, you know, when you tell a 20-year-old guy, 20 साल का लड़का ना, ठीक है? And this is not to belittle anybody in the corporate sector because everybody has its own responsibilities. After all, the corporate is giving taxes, that is how the army is paid. So without corporate, there will be no army, let's face it. However, having said that, it's very important to realize that when you tell a soldier with 40-50,000 rupees salary, go on that mission, he will go on that mission, he will not say no. Right? And he knows that he's not going to be paid. So, whenever somebody says you achieve this target and I will give you this much money, if that is the understanding in the corporate sector, or you'll get a promotion, or you'll get a bonus, or you'll get a trip to Singapore or Dubai, then you can't learn from the army. Because they are talking about two different things.
True.
Right? And so, I wrote an article sometime back and it's like, you know, if Mother India says, you know, and this is a conversation that the country is having with a soldier. And this is in my mind and I wrote about this. So Mother India says that my honor is at stake, who will fight for me? And the young soldier steps forward and says, send me, I will die for you. Now, this is a relationship that cannot be duplicated. Because duplication of this relationship does not exist. Why people do it? For the country, for the regiment, for the Paltan, which is the battalion. Why people do it? This whole thing remains a mystery. Why does Lieutenant Manoj Pandey decide that day to run into machine gun fire? For what? We don't know. There must be something going on in his mind. Last time I came to Calcutta, I spoke about the Battle of Rizangla. And I told them about this battle which my regiment fought against the Chinese. And these were 122 people. They were surrounded by 3,000 Chinese soldiers. And this officer stands up and he says that, do you agree that we should fight? They said, yes sir, we'll fight against Chinese. He said, there is no victory to be had here, it's death. In the next 24 hours, all of us will die. I can only give you one guarantee. We are not going to win. We are going to die. And those 122 chose to die that day. It was a conscious choice. Because brigade headquarters, higher headquarters had told them, you step back. You fight another day, there is no point. That day they chose to die. And for a place that probably has no strategic significance, by the way, let me be very honest. Rizanla has no strategic significance. Not a blade of grass grows in Rizanla. It's a terrible, horrible, messy place. Minus 30, minus 40, minus 50 degrees, 100 kmph winds. Nothing grows. But then you suddenly decide that no. The Chinese army has come this far, it will not go further. And this is where we make the last stand. Why? Nobody knows. You must have seen that movie 300, no? So that's a true story. The Battle of Thermopylae and King Leonidas. So that is a true story, and we have several last stands of why they choose to do something. These are one of the great mysteries of leadership, and why not just that, also why people choose to say. You know, when 120 people choose to say that we have been given an honorable exit. हमें बोल दिया है कि आप जा सकते हो. There is no shame because you are following orders, and in the army you are supposed to follow orders, and they defy orders and they say no. Today we have decided that we will die here, and they die there. So ये सर ये duplicate नहीं कर सकते.
थोड़ा सा duplicate करने के बारे में, so there's this thing that I've started talking about, which is 2611 and the Taj. People who were allowed to go home from the telecom centers, they came back to that battleground. There were more number of people, corporate employees lost to the gunfire than the guests. And that becomes possible in the corporate sector as well.
But you know why, sir? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Please.
I'll tell you why. My friend Arvind Sharma is director HR in Taj, and he's been with Taj all his life. He's now currently in that hotel in Rajasthan. वो लेक के बीच में जो है वो yeah.
Lake.
So he's head of HR there. His name is Arvind Sharma. Taj hires its people from the villages of India. These are guys from the villages of India who've seen hardship, who understand the concept of izzat, who understand the concept. I'm not saying that people in cities do not. But my unit is a pure unit. I'm from 17 Kumaon, my unit is 100% Kumaoni. The problem in pure units, and I'll tell you about that Taj thing also directly relates. The thing about pure units is that your brother is there, your chacha is there, your mama ka ladka is there. And if you show cowardice, your village will know. And you will never go back to your village in your life because you're branded a coward. So either you win or you come back in a box. But I withdrew because I was getting scared. वो column है नहीं फौज में. And this is what Taj has managed to replicate by getting people from inside. मैं एक जिम्मेदारी से आपको बात बता रहा हूँ. शहर वाला होता भाग जाता. उसकी EMI बंधी हुई है. उसको डर है गोली का. He would have run away. These guys did not run away. Taj का case. Arvind told me about this.
I remember having gone to Rameshwaram once. और हम भारतीय तो कहीं भी जाके अपना खाना ढूंढते हैं ना. Okay, so we went there and we were looking for a Marwari Bhojanalaya, and we went there, and there was this particular store owner, that particular restaurant owner, and he was talking in his own tongue with those people. And I said, it must be costing you a whole lot to get all of those people here. You'll have to send them back on vacations or whatever leaves. And then what he said was, that sir, all of these people are from my villages. इनमें से कोई मेरे यहाँ से चोरी नहीं कर सकता. जाके वो क्या नाक दिखाएगा वहाँ पर. And therefore that idea of that izzat or naam and all of that name, etc., all of that probably is important. So probably we'll need to look at as to how is it that we can probably take something from there to be able to at least replicate a part of that. That's because if everything were to be about the money, then the next firm which is giving you another 5,000, 10,000, you should be jumping there. Why do people then continue to stay? Is it because they've gotten used to this and therefore they don't want to take chances? Why do people stay loyal then?
I think, sir, it's a variety of factors. There are people who will stay with one company for 20 years, 25 years. The feeling of safety, the feeling of knowing that place, you know, the feeling that, well, I'm very comfortable here. same. It's like winters, no? You don't want to get out of the wind. Like people like me, when I joined the media, I was 45 years old when I joined the media. And the day I joined the media, I did not know where to look or which camera to face while talking. I had seen the studio 10, 15 times because I was invited on debates, but I did not know. So, another thing which I should sort of say, and one thing good with me is that I have this ability to take massive risk. It's almost stupid. Sometimes I do illogical stuff, but then I have these guys, no? So they'll come to my support.
Beautiful, beautiful. So from that particular past to probably the present, and I move into the future part. So there's a recent video on Bangladesh of yours which went viral. ना कुछ लाखों वाखों view हो गए उसके. And I was just wondering that
लाखों views रोज होते हैं सर.
हाँ नहीं उस वाले के हमारी बात हुई थी remember? And then we were saying कि YouTube में इतना दिख रहा है but वास्तव में शायद इतना होगा. That way, so, and therefore that happens regularly. So as the editor-in-chief of the Chanakya Forum, I was wondering as to how do you perceive the current challenges which this particular country faces and for national security, and why should a corporate employee or the honcho be concerned about that?
See, I'll tell you there are 2-3 things. First of all, so one is an emotional answer and one is a practical answer. The emotional answer is that even when a person goes to the army, पहले 18 साल की ट्रेनिंग तो घर पे होती है. It is the values that your parents give you. That is number one. So that is the emotional answer. The practical answer is that business today is juxtaposed with geopolitics. Supply chains are global. If that camera that is recording in front of us, there behind you and in front of me, that has parts from at least 7 countries. Maybe the wire comes from, or the chip comes from Taiwan. Maybe the frame is made in India. Maybe the lens comes from Switzerland. Maybe the aperture is made in Germany. So, if there is an attack on Taiwan, you don't get your camera because that entire supply chain collapses. Very interestingly, that you should mention, sir, why businesses should focus on the larger extent of, let's call it geopolitics. This is the biggest lesson that we have learned from the Ukraine-Russia war. This is the one. Why are you guys listening to me? Yeah? This Kishore Kumar singing there. Acha, ये course mate है ना, ये तो बोलेगा. Acha, so basically what I'm trying to say is that everything is intertwined and you can't help it. So this is the biggest lesson that we learned in the armed forces, or people who are students of geopolitics. What we learned is that supply chains are extremely important, and that is the whole concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat, if you've heard of it. What is Atmanirbhar? It's not simply make in India. It is research in India, it is conceptualized in India, it is make in India, it is used in India, and it is sell to the rest of the world. I'll tell you what America is doing today. So Prime Minister Modi goes, and Joe Biden and Prime Minister Modi, they sign an agreement to give us engines, GE engines for our fighter planes. Tejas, right? So we have an Air Force officer right there. So we say that we will get engines for Tejas from GE. F404 and F414. So Tejas Mark 1, Tejas Mark 2, respectively. And America delays it. America delays giving us those engines, and because America delays, our fighter fleet or our squadrons, I beg your pardon, the squadron strength is going down because America is delaying it. So this is one very important lesson that we learned, that you cannot depend on anybody. You know this famous Bangla song, Ekla Chalo Re? This is actually true. This is not just a song. This is hardcore geopolitics. You are alone. Tomorrow if you fight, no America is going to come to you. Nobody. So when you do your business, the first thing that you must understand, if there are business leaders or entrepreneurs in this room, secure your supply chains, number one. Because this way this entire region is going, with Bangladesh you mentioned, with Bangladesh and what's happening in Myanmar and what's happening with China and what's happening with Russia and what's happening in the Middle East, oil prices will take a hit in 2025, right? Commodities are going to be hit, everything will be hit. So the more you control, the safer you are. The less you control, the more you expose your business. For everything. Understand there are 20 things that make up your supply chain. So we call it supply chain resilience. Your supply chain must be resilient enough that tomorrow anything happens, you take care of it.
And therefore the China plus one.
Ji?
And therefore the China plus one.
China
And
plus
therefore
one
let's
alag
get
cheez.
out there.
China plus one is essentially what happened is that in the China plus one, what Professor Saab was talking about is very important. What happened was that 40 years back, 50 years back, China was an absolute third world country. You are well aware. So they had something called the Great Leap Forward. And Mao Zedong decided, during his time, donkey's years back, he decided that from tomorrow, China will become an industrial country. So Mao Zedong ended up killing almost 2.5 crore Chinese people. उसने अपने खुद के 2.5 crore बंदे मार दिए. One of the things that he did was, the farmers complained to him that the sparrows are eating the grain. So he told the PLA, shoot all the sparrows. The entire ecosystem collapsed. There was famine in China. You can look it up on the internet. You will find these fascinating stories of how China. So when India was saying, Garibi Hatao, the famous slogan, Garibi Hatao. China was saying, Garib Hatao. They said, Garibi baad mein hategi, pehle Garib ko hatao. So there is a price to pay, sir, for all this. Ye jo hum wealth, success dekhte na, there is a huge price to pay which China does not show. Like for example, when there were the Beijing Olympics, PLA trucks came, they took 5,000 beggars from Beijing, and they transported those beggars some 3,000-4,000 kilometers away, and they dumped them in the middle of the road. They said even if they walk back, they're going to take a month or more than that to get here. Tab tak Olympics khatam ho jayenge. That is all the Chinese did it.
And therefore there's a price that we are paying for democracy then?
You'll have to pay a price for democracy, and there are people inside India who will weaken your systems. They will use your systems against you. So there is this Jonathan, I forget the full name of the journalist, Jonathan. He makes a very important and a very relevant point. He says that the way China does all this is extremely simple. They have everything sorted out, right? So when the Chinese want to attack the United States of America, they use the race card. So a Chinese spy is caught in the US, right? There is a Chinese spy, he's caught in the US. Could be a research scholar, could be somebody in a laboratory, espionage for the Chinese Secret Service, he's caught, and suddenly everybody goes, oh, you caught him because he's a Chinese, he's so racist. You can't say it is the Chinese virus unless you're Donald Trump, right? Everybody says it's COVID, it came out of a lab in Wuhan, right? Because they're eating, I don't know, bats and monkeys and frogs, etc., whatever. Good for them. But don't kill us, right? So when China does this, in India, how do you do it? You brand somebody communal. And any decent person who's educated does not want to be called communal. So if you say anything, they say he's communal. And then suddenly you get a shock and you take 2 steps back and you say, oh, I'm sorry. I stopped caring 5 years back because I know what I am. So we'll keep on hammering Bangladesh. It doesn't matter.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if I were to take you back once again to your journey and ask you to take a relook, would there be a particular decision that you will take differently today once you are richer with the hindsight, which would have probably changed the trajectory of your leadership journey?
Three Idiots. ये हमारी life है, sir. I don't think I would have done anything differently. You see, if there was a great pressure from my family that I should give the IAS examination. So I went and one day I saw the books, and those books terrified me, and I said, that is the end of my dream. It wasn't my dream, it was the family's dream. I always wanted to go into the army. Getting into the army is difficult, surviving in the army is more difficult, sir. Because they make you study after you've been commissioned as an officer. वो पढ़ा के आपको परेशान कर देंगे. Even if you're an unwilling student, they'll still teach you, right? So I don't think I would have done anything differently. It has been a wonderful life, and honestly speaking, I have got far more than I deserved. And people have been very kind, people have been very helpful. और जब भी कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है, कोई ना कोई हाथ पकड़ ले. मैं बता रहा हूँ, एक हमारा रूट मार्च था 40-45 किलोमीटर का. क्या होता है कि however tough you are, आप कितने भी टफ होगे ना, after 20 kilometers your mind will go blank because you're carrying a whole lot of load and you're marching throughout the night, and there are no breaks for coffee and all that. ऐसा कुछ नहीं, मतलब it's just 40-45 kilometers. And there was a time after 15 kilometers, Anand, I'm speaking about you, keep down your phone. ध्यान से सुन. I can do that. So I literally, collapsed. I was very weak physically. When I joined the academy, I was very weak physically. And I have the unique honor and distinction in OTA of failing every single test that OTA designed. And everybody was shocked कि who's the superstar? ये 24-25 टेस्ट थे तो भाई सब में फेल हो गया. ये कैसे हुआ? So when I was about to give up, this guy Arnab, he picked up my rifle. And this guy AP Sinha, he's still serving in the army, he's a colonel. He picked up my backpack. And in spite of that, I could not walk because my legs were bleeding. तो मैंने अर्नब के कंधे पे हाथ रखा और धीरे धीरे धीरे, and he was abusing me in Bengali. I don't know what he was saying, I don't know. But ये मुझे गाली देता देता एंड तक ये पीछे से लात मार रहा था, वो आगे से खींच रहा था. You need such guys in your life, right? It's not that they did not have their own load to carry, because everybody was carrying their own loads. And that is, I think, true leadership. When you go beyond yourself, sir.
Beautiful.
And you say that, ठीक है, मुझे भी दुख हो रहा है, लेकिन that is why in the army they say, no, we are not looking for the best person, we are looking for the right person. And the right person may not be the best person. So that is how there is another guy called Bali, A.S. Bali. He's also serving colonel in the army. So in the academy, I was abused in Punjabi, in Bengali, and in Bhojpuri, if that is his language. Abused in all three languages simultaneously. Imagine the motivation that gave you. तीन जगह से चाबी लग रही है.
Because not everyone can design it or probably be kind of fortunate enough to cultivate it. What kind of advice would you give to a new leader today? Someone who is aspiring to become a leader?
I think, sir, the basic thing is that for a leader is to take responsibility, good or bad. Stop blaming people, it is your fault. Number one. All fault is yours, all credit goes to the team. That is the first rule of leadership, according to me. I have my own way of doing it. So, kudos to the team. My team member is sitting right there. Kudos to the team, and it's your fault. That is number one. Number two, people will come to you when they have confusion. Right? It is your job at that point in time to at least fake confidence, even though you might be more confused than them. don't show it to them because they'll just get hyper and they'll start running away. Ki kya kar raha hai ye? That is the second thing. And third, most important thing for a leader is creating other leaders. You give a person responsibility in your team and say, you fly with this. Right? And that person will make mistakes. And as long as the mistake is not that of intent, fly with that person. Everybody wants a boost. You know, today, मैं कभी अपनी टीम को ये नहीं बोलता कि I don't know how you do it, but you have to do it. There are many people who say it, right? कि मुझे नहीं पता, I want it till tomorrow. I avoid telling. कभी कभी मुंह से निकल भी जाता होगा. I avoid telling my team this because I know that today if I look smart to them, it is just because I am older and I have already committed those mistakes. And it's okay. Be kind to people. Kindness भी ज़रूरी है. हाँ. I don't rest. That is my personal problem. I'll keep on cribbing. I'm very tired. I need. I'll keep on crying about it. पर मैं फिर I go back to doing the same thing. फिर laptop खोल के OCD type का case है सर कुछ मेरा.
Likewise. 5
Likewise.
घंटे से ज़्यादा की नींद नहीं होती. But I thought that I'll probably invite a few questions from the audience, if there are any. Do we have mics which can be passed around? Yes, yeah.
Hello, Mr. Arya. I'm from TV9. I'm doing defense and diplomacy for the last few months. My question is, I'm a regular follower of your YouTube channel and channel dialogue. So my question, I have two questions. Mainly, as we were talking about internal enemies, internal threats. So is there any mechanism for any internal agency or any security agency to deal with this internal threat, which is really internal? I mean, not from outside, not from inside in,
Understand.
but it's real internal,
Yes.
both political and apolitical. And this is number one. And another question is, as we already surrounded by bad neighbors, right? Another thing emerged, that is Bangladesh. I don't want to talk about the possibility of war or etc. This is not the right approach. But what I'm trying to understand is what will be the implication geostrategically in India's point of view in few coming days, as far as the security and internal threats are concerned.
All right.
Thank
for your
you.
question.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer your second question first. There is this vilification of violence. I don't know in our society why you think that violence is bad. It's not bad. It's a good thing. And you said that one must not talk about war. Why not? We would be out of jobs if there's no war. I'm just joking. But you see, there is this. आपने पढ़ा होगा ना ये? दुआ पढ़ा है? बिनय न माना जलद जड़ गए 3 दिन बीत बोले राम सकोप तब भय बिन होए न प्रीत. There is no friendship without fear. Your enemies and your friends, I'm talking from the point of view of a nation, not an individual. Your enemies and your friends must fear you. These problems happen when people don't fear you. Number two, as a society, I think we are, ये बहुत peace करके ना ये, we have become very soft. We don't, if there is violence, we want to say, no, violence is very bad. Why is violence very bad? We are human beings. We are inherently violent. We rose to the top of the food chain because we killed everybody else. We were more cunning, we were faster, we were brighter, we could communicate, we could make weapons. Which other animal in the animal kingdom can make weapons? We can make weapons. We made better weapons, we made weapons that were more accurate, could shoot further. We killed everybody, and today that's why we are on the top because we are the most violent. See, you might find 1 or 2 exceptions. But animals will kill only when they are hungry or when they are in danger. Generally. Generally when animals are hungry or they feel they are in danger, they will kill. We are the only people who kill for a difference of opinion. You see, we are the only animal species. And that is okay. It is nothing to feel ashamed about, it's good. Because we are sitting here because we are the most violent lot. Ek to ye cheez hai. If tomorrow we are sitting in the heart of the Eastern Command here, Fort William is not very far away. If tomorrow the Eastern Command was given instructions to mobilize, right? Eastern Command is based out of Calcutta. If Eastern Command was given the orders to mobilize, Bangladesh would become the most peaceful nation on earth. See, people sometimes understand the language of violence. Sometimes peace, and peace never works. I'll tell you this whole thing about peace. Na, it's a total, ये fake है पूरा narrative. कि शांति होनी चाहिए, ये सब कोई शांति बनती नहीं है. Right? If you can punish people, na, then people listen to you, then people are nice to you. That is. Now, as far as the geopolitical thing you're talking about, what will happen in the next few days? I think Bangladesh, within the next 6 months, will come to its senses. Because India is slowly and surely applying pressure. And Bangladesh is slowly buckling. Now, all these, they are doing two things, okay? First of all, attack on Hindus is one thing that they're doing very well, effectively. Second thing, what they're doing is random people will give one comment, two comments here and there, which are picked up by the Indian media, and isne ye bol diya, isne bol diya, right? Suddenly they said that we will trade with Pakistan. With what? One guy does not have the produce, one guy does not have the money. What trade are you going to do? Aapne map dekha hai? Have you seen the map? Where Bangladesh is, where Pakistan is? All India has to do is stop overflight. This is what we did in 1971 war. We stopped East Pakistan from talking to West Pakistan. They had to come all the way from near Sri Lanka. That's all you have to do. They said we'll import sugar from Pakistan. Pakistan is very happy. 6,000 tons of sugar we have sent. You can send once or twice because you want to make a political point. Nobody is going to buy sugar 500 rupees per kg. Sorry?
2919.
Pakistan is a nation where 75% of the people are involved in agriculture, and Pakistan still imports much of its food grain from outside because the farmers are also incompetent. Even they can't produce. So, ये सब कहने वाली चीजें हैं. But this area is going to get more and more unsettled in the future. You just mark my words. Majorly unsettled this area is going to be in future. And Bangladesh anyway has become a proxy of the US for all practical purposes. They're going to suffer. And one thing I'll tell you on a public platform, I know this is being recorded, we will make them suffer. They deserve it. If we can create a country, we can also break a country. And it was created from Eastern Command here. These were the guys in Fort William who created Bangladesh. Let people not be under any misconception. Of course, the Mukti Bahini were brave, no doubt. The Mukti Jodhas were brave, no doubt. Nobody's doubting their bravery. But bravery alone does not win wars. Who did A.A.K. Niazi surrender to? Who did he surrender to? He did not surrender to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He surrendered to General Jagjit Singh Arora, who sat in Fort William. ये है, अगर हम बना सकते हैं, हम तोड़ भी सकते हैं. ये रहेगा. This is, see, you're a democracy. Internal threats will be there. People will create NGOs. People will use NGOs. People will use media. People will fund media. All this will continue. This is happening in America also. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was created by 3 white women. And
Deep state is more and more dangerous now. The idea of deep state, and deep state is everywhere.
Yes.
In India, it is more effective, more and more effective. Once the government shifts and the situation is going to be very, very worse. you know that. So is there any mechanism that need to be taken to deal with these things?
You can file cases in court against them, but our justice system is extremely slow. So by the time a person gets punished, he's been languishing in jail or running in and out of court, it's very, very difficult. Unless you're talking about a covert action inside India. Unless you're going in that direction. Ek team ikhatta karo, identify karo, good night bolo, aage bolo. But that's a grey zone, absolutely. Let's not go there on a public platform. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening.
I have one question which I always love to ask people from the defense forces. And I'll give a background before I ask the question. That I'm into management consulting and ran several projects here in Calcutta. They were cutting edge projects and enormous amount of difficulty when you're trying to do something new. And jokingly, I always found that my colleagues from the other parts of the organization would think of hum Calcutta jaye ya California jaye. I used to jokingly tell people that why should they come to a difficult project as compared to easier projects available. So I was always very curious, and you touched upon several times this particular questions answered in different ways, but I would still like you to maybe just take a step back and think about it. I used to wonder that how do you in the army motivate a person to go for certain death? You mentioned that. There's no uncertainty. If there's and I always think that soldiers, the ordinary soldier has a lot of difficulty back home. It's not that they have easy lives and they have ordinary needs, they have various challenges. And here is a person who is being either commanded or on his own will, goes for certain death. What would you think that, while you said, of course, we don't know and it's difficult on the spur of the moment, people do take decisions. But if you were to look at some of them, as you as a motivator, what would you do?
I think when you tell a 20-year-old that your job is to defend India, ऐसा JD किसी को नहीं मिलता, sir. This kind of job description is not to be found. That you are responsible for defending India. It's a very big deal. Then we have this concept of regiment. We have this concept of a unit. We have our forefathers. In the unit, when I say forefathers, I'm not saying biological forefathers, I'm saying our seniors in the unit. Like my regiment is 250 years old. More than 250 years old, my regiment. So, in its various avatars, we have fought in Mesopotamia, we have fought in Northern Africa, Flanders. Because earlier it was the Nizam's forces. 19th Hyderabad Infantry became the Kumaon Regiment. We fought everywhere. And this is something that is often said in my regiment, that when people are down and out and absolutely tired and the will to go on is not there, at that point in time, somebody will get up and say कि ये Major Somnath Sharma और Major Shaitan Singh की regiment है. And then people, broken, tired, weary, sweating, bleeding, will get up, and then they will launch themselves into battle again. It's this entire thing that there is something bigger than you that you're fighting for. The regiment, the country, also your buddies. You do stuff that normally outside you would not do. Like, if I fall, in corporate, if I fall, and if I was never in the army, nobody would help me. Maybe people would take advantage, or people would talk behind my back, or sympathize, but nobody would put his neck out and say, I will help you. But these two guys did, because of the ethos of the Indian Army that they imbibed, whether it's Arnab Chakrabarti or AP Sinha. So what they will do is, they will help. There is this thing that we are a team, right? We live together, we train together, and when the time comes, we die together. This concept of mission, this concept of honor, it's very difficult. A lot of companies call me for motivational talks and they say, we want to imbibe some of the values of the Indian Army. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can give me 100 crore rupees and I still can't do it. Nobody can do it. It can't be done. Right? It can't be done because that is a certain ecosystem in which a person, you're taught everything from day one. And this is not indoctrination. You're told stories And then there is the responsibility. You know, today, I will go on television. I don't know if you have noticed or not. If you've seen me on television, I can get extremely aggressive. I will never abuse. Even in my YouTube videos, where nobody will take action because it's my platform, I can say whatever I want. As long as I'm not showing explicit content, I can do whatever I wish. I will never abuse. Why? There is a reason. Because मेरे दिमाग में ये है कि मेरी regiment वाले देख रहे हैं, and I'm answerable to somebody. And I left the army in 1999. 99 मैंने फौज छोड़ी है. Today I feel answerable to somebody who was probably in his shorts or in his diapers when I was serving. But he will ask me कि साहब आपने ऐसा क्यों बोल दिया? And I'll have no answer. मुझे ये face वाला जो है ना चक्कर, you understand this concept of face, right? That's very important in the army. So you'll say army people are very punctual. आपने देखा होगा ना, they're very punctual. I'll tell you why they're punctual. Everything is a parade in the army. Everything. It's not just कि you're going to war, so you have to be punctual. If the party starts at 8 o'clock, you jolly well be there at 7:55. Everything is a matter of life and death. Everything is binary in the forge. There are no nuances, just I told you. No? कुछ नहीं, it's very, very straightforward in the forge. It's great for guys like me, you know, who don't want to do much thinking and all. ना मतलब कि ठीक है बोल दिया, मार दिया. इस टाइप का तो it's better.
Sir, just a strategic question from you,
जी जी.
which sometimes come in my mind. Sir, why are we not covering up that chicken neck area?
You mean going like this? Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Taking some part of Bangladesh and make it a, broader way.
Yeah. Militarily, it's not difficult. Militarily, it is not difficult. Diplomatically, it's very difficult to explain to the world why, because Bangladesh is a sovereign country and that is an international border. आपको chicken neck, आपको 22 किलोमीटर से 122 किलोमीटर करना है, that's peanuts.
कोई chance है आगे भी सोचने का, जैसे बलोच was initially planning to be part of India. So ऐसा कुछ program?
I don't think so. I don't think so because it has a lot of diplomatic fallouts. Isolation, sanctions, बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम आ जाएगी इंडिया में. आप कर तो दोगे, करने में कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Forget about chicken neck. If you have the Eastern Command roll over into Bangladesh, their army will surrender in 48 hours. I'm talking about the entire country. But the problem is there are diplomatic fallouts. Putin invaded Ukraine, right? There are diplomatic fallouts. आज की तारीख में बहुत बुरा हाल है रशिया में इकोनॉमी का. So it's a problem. Yeah. Yes.
We know there are a lot of questions which is there in your minds. We do have a networking dinner, and I would say hold on some of those questions, which is beyond the mindful leader also for, maybe the networking dinner. One last question, do we take, or one last question?
Hi, Mr. Mario.
Hi.
My name is Devojit. Proudly, I will introduce myself as a proud student of Professor Sehgal. He is my Guruji, I say. So, I have two questions to Mr. Mario. The first thing is that what are the three lessons you earn from in your army and you implement in the corporate field? And my second question is, you in your younger age, you basically passionate about the rock band star or a part of the rock band and everything. But your dream is basically to be a part of Indian Army. So how do you prioritize passion over your dream? So I have the two questions.
No, I'm a very practical guy. Passion कुछ नहीं होता था, ठीक है?
Okay.
हाँ, ये सब देखिए. You need to be very, very clear what you want in life and what you want, how will it get funded? Right? That's why I have my own business. I know how it is funded. Right? But the lessons that you're talking about from the army is it's been said very often, and it's people discuss this a lot. But I think what the army gives you in terms of discipline is very important. It becomes a habit. Getting up in the morning. If you have to do something, somehow you convince your mind that whatever the level of discomfort, you still get up and do it. I think that is something that the army gives you. Number two, trying to find solutions to problems. Problem solving is a skill that they teach you in the army. They actually, because they say that officers are supposed to take initiative. Sometimes young officers take initiative which, really goes crazy sometimes, but it happens in the forge. It's a huge army. And third very important thing is that how to care for people who are see, all of us talk about leadership, right? Nobody talks about taking care of your team. There are people under you. Are you even aware what are their personal challenges? Are you aware of what they are going through? उनके बारे में कोई बात नहीं करता because, being on the stage, being on camera, being on television has a different kind of kick. Where you are the center of attraction, everybody looking at you. What is he going to say? Right? So I'm sitting here, even if I say something very stupid, you'll think it's some sort of intellectual argument, which it is not. It is actually something stupid. But having said that, what you have to do is turn logic on your head and care for the people in your team, which the army teaches you. Care for them. You have to be like a strict father. The old-time fathers, they never smiled, but they took care of you. Army officers are like that. They're very strict fathers. They'll snap, they'll scream, they'll shout, they'll galat karay. But in the end, they'll stand with you. At 2 o'clock in the morning, if there is a problem. And 2 o'clock in the morning is when I have to get up also, I just remembered. So I think that will be the last question. I have a very early flight.
Thank you very much. I think that was a very, very interesting conversation. People definitely want to hear more, and I think each and every anecdote is something that, people will carry back. Thanks for that wonderful conversation. We have small tokens for our speakers. Could we have that? And I would request Mr. Anup Chakraborty to hand it over. Our musical cue is also coming back. We also have today with us Dr. Shubhayu Banerjee, who is a senior consultant with Manipal Hospitals. And to end the session, I would request you, Doctor, to please come up and share a few words with us.
Thank you everyone for giving us an opportunity to come and speak in such a beautiful forum. I'm very glad to say that Manipal Manipal was one of the leading brands in southern India. Now we have spread across pan-India, and with the acquisition of AMRI and Medica, it's going to be available for the people in the east. Now, a hospital is not bricks and mortars. It's about clinical excellence, technical brilliance, and leadership. And I think Manipal is a melting pot of all of this put together. So I think rather than people going to the other parts of the country where they have logistical issues, Manipal will be here to serve all of you, including Ranchi and Bhubaneswar for that matter. And a last little anecdote which I had to share with you was when I came back from UK after 15 years, I thought I'm so well trained, I'm going to rock Calcutta. 3 years down the line, what I saw was 40% of my patients were going down to South and Bombay. So I started thinking, why is this happening? What I realized was, as doctors in Kolkata, we lack empathy and kindness and transparency. So that's the reason people leave us and go somewhere else. So for us as physicians, as surgeons, as doctors, we need to practice that empathy and kindness and holding hands when people are sick. And I'm proud to say that probably in Manipal we have trying to inculcate the culture so the patients stay with us and enjoy, when they are sick, at least they come to us rather than going with logistical difference back anywhere else. So thank you once again, and Manipal is glad to collaborate with BCCI and XLRI for the near future. Thank you.
I would request Arnab to please come once more to hand over a memento. Sir, please, if you could stay back. With that, we come to an end to a wonderful evening. I'm sure all of you did enjoy the sneak preview a lot, and look out for the main program coming out. We look for more participation from all of you, and have a good time. Thank you.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. So I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry somehow? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friend, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health program. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribes for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower and one that is accessible by you immediately.